right, everybody, welcome back to another episode in our Accountant Showcase. We are very excited to have Scott Scarano with us, who is going to be discussing several items. One about his book, which we were just discussing about the whole profession and the journey and how it's changed, but also a little bit about himself. So please, first off, thanks for taking time out and tell us about who Scott is.
Many different things these days. I have an accounting firm. I'm an accountant. I don't know if I would say former accountant because I don't do any accounting anymore. I'm also not that involved in the firm anymore. Kind of worked myself out of a job. I have a show now, a podcast, Accounting High, which is also kind of like the high school or the metaphorical high school for the profession. We do some fun stuff. We do a tournament during tax season. There was we called it the Accountant Bracket Challenge, and it was 64 different things in the accounting sphere, all competing to be the champion or make it to the Final Four, just like the March Madness. This was March Aptness. So that was fun. That was at the school, and I've also started rapping recently too, under the moniker OKR. So that's like raps for accountants, raps for business, stuff like that. So just fun stuff, entertaining things.
How did this all get started? Becoming a former accountant? Is this something you wanted to do, your whole life? Did you have some an experience or someone who kind of made you think this is a profession I want to get into? So how did that all begin?
Oh, my whole life. I always wanted to be an actor and an accountant or some form of the two, or entertainer. But I always also loved accounting. I mean, my grandfather had a CPA firm. My dad was a CPA. So the first iteration of the show was called Sons of CPAs. We wanted to expand that to the whole next generation of CPAs, not just males, because sons, it was just really describing the two hosts at the time. But yeah, I always kind of wanted to do both. I wanted to do something entertaining, and at a certain point, I was working toward becoming just the visionary at the firm, just the owner, no internal responsibilities, not needed, not tied to anything in the firm. And once I got there, I didn't know what to do with my time. So that's when I had too much time on my hands. So I developed the show, and then I started as I started working with audio, and I was doing my own editing for the show. That's when I started experimenting with the rap stuff, and it kind of took on a life of its own. And just recently at Scaling New Heights, I performed in front of everybody on the main stage. I did a rap for the conference. So
Now, kudos to you, because accountants in general, or that I see at least, are introverted. There's nothing wrong with that, but for what you're doing and doing a public performance, I mean, myself, I'm very I can relate to exactly what you're saying, because I have no problem public speaking. I was always that first person in the class who wants to go first to do their project, things like
Yep.
that. So but when you still went up on the stage, did you still have butterflies? Were you nervous as heck? I feel like
The
that.
day before I was, and the day of, I had been rehearsing it and practicing it so much that I just felt good about it. I felt like that's where I needed to be. And I wasn't, maybe I just like psyched myself into being excited, not nervous.
Yeah.
Because I was just really hyped up. And I had a friend of mine, we were just walking around before, just talking. So I had to take my mind off of it. And by the time it was time to go on, I was just ready. It was just like another rehearsal. That was my first time ever doing that, though. I felt alive. I felt like that's what I should have been doing for years. And so now I'm trying to make up for lost time. I'm working
Yeah.
on another one for a conference coming up in August. So I'm writing a new track for that, recording a video for it, and going to perform it.
So now, you're writing out the tracks? Are you doing any freestyling, or
They're
is it more?
parodies. For all the ones that I've done, I take something that's recognizable and I change pretty much everything in it to fit whatever the theme or whatever story I'm trying to tell there. So, and
Yeah.
I've done some for apps too. So I did one for Live Flow, and I just take songs that are recognizable and that fit the same theme and bring forward the new message. So I got one that I worked on for Expensify that I filmed in Italy during their Expensicon, and that video is shaping up to be pretty dope. So
I love it. I think what you're doing is helping out the accounting profession's image per se, right?
oh
Because the
yeah,
image now is like it's an old dude or an old gal that has that green visor and like thick glasses and a huge oversized calculator, and that's what the like rap performance entertainers is not correlated with accounting. But why not? Why can't it be?
why can't it be? And we need to
So
attract the next generation to this profession because we're losing people. We don't have that many people in accounting right now, so we got to do
yeah,
stuff to keep them engaged. And honestly, I've always had both those sides of me. I'm more of an ambivert. Like I can be introverted and I need my alone time.
yep,
But I'm very extroverted sometimes too. Like
yeah,
very, very much. So it's sort of a balance between the two. I don't
yep,
like balance, so it's either all or none usually for me. Like I'm either like only on my own. I can't be around anybody, or I want
right,
to be around everybody.
yep, totally get it. 0 or 100. Now, all right, so so this is interesting because you're kind of accounting CPA, that's been part of your life. But what talk more on the entertainment aspect of it. So you wanted to always be an actor. What kind of influenced you there? Accounting, I get from your family, but what made you want to entertain?
So I like growing up, it was the same thing. I always want to be the first one, like up, and I always wanted people to look at me. I wanted the attention. Sometimes I want all the attention or none of it, like I was just
Are you an
saying.
only child?
No, I'm not, but I'm the oldest child, and I was the oldest grandchild, and I was also like, my parents moved down to North Carolina. I'm in the RDU area in North Carolina, and that's been growing like crazy since they moved down in the early 90s. So they built a new middle school for our area. So we were the only upperclassmen in the middle school. We had no upperclassmen then. In high school, we also brand new high school, first graduating class, never had any upperclassmen. So I had this complex of like not just the only child, but always the oldest in everything too, growing up. I don't think that did too many favors to my ego, but I'm working on that. But what it did was it gave me the confidence to be able to do stuff, and I didn't have people knocking me down, all throughout those. So I felt like I could do anything. And I was always doing fun stuff in school, but it's at a certain point you got to be realistic. I got into some trouble when I was in college, and I had to just settle down and do. I don't think this is answering your question, but this was sort of like part of that
No, it's
journey
fine. I
of
like it.
settling down and doing something that could provide some stability. I had a family at a pretty young age, so my oldest daughter's going to be driving next month. Yeah, and I got two other kids, so I needed to do something stable, financial reasons. Like I couldn't just chase this dream. The dream, it was, when we're talking rap, a lot of influences. Jay-Z growing up, DMX, Outkast, Eminem when he came on the scene, and that was the beginning and end of it. But I'm, and so I'm trying to emulate, and the parodies that I'm doing are the ones that I grew up listening to, like the artists that I grew up that I was really in tune with. And movies. I always like comedies. I always liked drama. I like anything that evokes emotions. So if I could evoke those emotions in different ways in real life, that's what I would do. Make people laugh, make people cry, whatever it might be. I was always doing that. So, and now I'm able to do that, but apply my knowledge with accounting and apply it to these other things. So I take from outside the profession and bring it in, whatever it is, free to do whatever I want at this point because nobody's doing these things. So I was scared at first, really scared that this would just be, a little fizz up. People, get a little, oh, that's kind of cute. That's cool. But people really like it. So it's encouraging me to keep doing it. A lot of validation.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
If if people never fail, then they'll never succeed. I mean, it's that fear of I mean, public speaking and acting, I mean, that's an actual fear, like snakes and spiders and things like that. But uh, people are so afraid of change, of failing, and that's the only way that you'll ever learn. If you go through life and you do everything the same way, nothing ever goes wrong. What are you going to learn? Absolutely nothing. So
I've
when you
learned a lot of lessons along the way. I've had a lot of failures. Yeah,
some through trial and error, right? Some through,
pretty much. Yeah.
it's not the best decision, but let's see where it goes. And then there's that moment where it's the right decision, you're confident, you execute it. That's the best feeling in the world. But to get there, you have to do a lot of
Yeah,
well
you have
balanced.
to know some of the wrong decisions too to know which one's the
Yes.
right one. And I stumble upon a lot. I've done most of everything I've done in the profession and in accounting and in life accidentally on purpose. Like it's always some part of my subconscious driving me to keep making the wrong decision until finally it's the right one.
Yep. And it's your story is very, I mean, I easily relate to, and I'm an only child. That's why I asked, because being independent, I mean, I had to figure out how to entertain myself all day long. No brothers, no sisters. I was a latchkey kid, so I was by myself quite a bit. So you have to be really creative, and and just um, uh, which is what I do now. It's consult and talk and talk and talk. But before, I was always talking in front of a mirror, right? And so
Sure.
you just find ways to entertain yourself, and so that just builds unbelievable confidence until you think you're confident and you actually go about your
That's
performance.
the peak of Mount Stupid. Usually
Yeah,
I've been there. I was there with my firm for sure. I was there with the podcast and all this other stuff.
yeah,
I'm probably still there now, but eventually you get out of that peak of Mount Stupid, you get knocked down and you end up in that valley of despair.
yep.
And that's a hard place to get through. But after getting through that, then things start to really stabilize. And I feel like I'm there with accounting and with the show, Accounting High. So
I love it. Now, talk about we talked a lot on your journey and how you got here. So share some insights on the profession as a whole, over the last 5 years, and where do you think it's going the next 5 years? I mean, to me, it is not just change, it is going through like a huge transformation. I feel like everybody is excited about change for the first time, and whether it's technology related, whether it's staff, whether it's looking at the client, this exceptional service delivery for the client. I feel like a lot of changes are actually happening and coming to fruition. What have you seen? And share some insights there.
yeah, I mean, technology enabled a lot of this, all of this change. It was, you can date it back to 10 years ago. The biggest change for me and my firm was finding zero and moving everything to the cloud, and building out from there. Because zero was a gateway to other apps, and that's how I found our outsource team, through another connection I had through Zero. That's how I started doing this podcast, but that's how I started meeting other people in the profession. And once you start having conversations with like-minded, tech-forward people, that's a huge unlock, and that opens up a world of possibilities for things that you could potentially do with your firm, learning from the people that have already made the mistakes and the things that they've done and taken shortcuts to make changes. So we were taking on clients all over the country, and we started using apps that enabled us to work remotely. We started doing a lot of things differently than the profession has done, so to speak, like in the past. Everything that I was doing within my network, my office is part of a franchise, it's, part of the Padgett network, and within there, they were doing things very different within their systems. I was doing everything upside down and backwards from their systems. And when you're part of a franchise, you're supposed to be doing what they tell you to do. And I was doing everything differently, but it was working. And we were growing faster than any other office. We became the number one office in their network by doing everything differently. And that was more validation and more, diving into the tech even further. And what else can we do? What else can we automate? What other processes can we remove? What other simple tasks can we automate? So that became, ways to eliminate a lot of the lower level work, and then also create systems to allow somebody else to do it in a different place. So our teams here, so now our makeup of our team is anybody in the States, in the US, is client facing. They're interfacing with clients, and that's their job, is to communicate with clients, everything that we're doing, have meetings with them, and it's that client facing role. We used to have people here in the US that were also doing a lot of bookkeeping and keeping up with the work. We do books and taxes, and that was it was hard to, especially during COVID, to find people. We were hiring remotely, and it was just nobody would last. Nobody wanted to work. Nobody wanted to put in much effort. But our team in the Philippines was amazing. It was incredible. Like the output that they had, and their work ethic, and the price difference too. Oof, compared to a staff level person here. So
Yeah.
we started continuing to grow that way. Now, our team makeup is so much different than it was just at the beginning of COVID. We had 12
Wow.
people. We had an office. And 12 people in the US. We had an office. And now we have 4 people in the Philippines, 6 people in the US, and we're doing better than we ever have. Our margins are higher. Our top line is higher than it was then. And everybody's happier,
Your
except I'm not
team.
involved. I'm not involved at all anymore. But I'd say the biggest change in those 10 years, you said 5 years, but really, I got to date it back to like around 2012, around the time Xero entered the scene. It woke QuickBooks up. Now QuickBooks Online is just as good of a product, probably better in some ways than Xero. We still use Xero mostly at our firm just because the context shifting between apps, but that was the start of it. And now, now the conversation is Gen AI, like generative AI and GPT and those tools. And last year around this time, we weren't even talking about that. We were talking about blockchain. We were talking about Bitcoin and everything, and Ethereum. And then the year before that, we were talking about something different. So there's going to be plenty of changes. I have no idea what it looks like in the next 5 years, but there's going to be a lot. After this Gen AI, like we're going to see a huge shift in the makeup of what our firms are looking like. I think our firm is on the right track, because you're always going to need people to build those relationships. That's our business, is relationships. And everybody's been talking about advisory and accounting forever. Now is the time people really need to start taking that seriously, because that's what's adding value. All the compliance stuff that we do, all the ticking and tying, boxes checked, this coded to here, this to that, all that stuff's going to be automated. If you haven't automated it already, you're going to be able to. Probably going to be able to automate the preparation of a lot of the books and the taxes. So where does that leave us? That still leaves us in a very valuable place, because we're the ones who are probably going to connect all that stuff and keep everything moving and keep everything up to date. So how do we interface with clients? Those are the people that we're going to be hiring. May not need to be hiring as many CPAs as we do now. We may need more people that are more extroverted and can interface with clients. And the everyday accountant, like you said, is wearing that visor with their head down, introverted, just wanting to do the work in the background. And I don't think there's going to be much of a place for that in the future. There still is now, but you're really going to have to be able to communicate with clients if you want to make money in this profession. Otherwise, you're just doing a job that, it's sad to say, a job that a computer could do.
Well said. Yeah. No matter what, I mean, change is constant. And you look at it in all aspects of your life, whether it's something minute, whether it's something extraordinary, you're going to encounter it. Yeah.
But it's scary too.
It
Like you
is. It
said,
always will be.
real
But you
scary.
have to have an open mind and be willing to take it on. I mean, for example, firms that I speak to, in some instances, they're like, well, we've been doing this for 40 years and we haven't changed anything. I'm like, well, what brought you to talk with us today? Right. And they're like, because we can't find anybody anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a change, right? So you're looking at, hiring outside the country. So right then and there, I respect the firm, because 40 years doing the same thing, they're running to an oh no moment. So what do? They're seeing options, right? And that's all you can do. You can't go at it in a negative aspect or an overly positive aspect. You got to go in with just an open mind.
Got to be realistic.
You great. Does it work for you? At least you explored it. But I feel that folks years ago were just always in the focusing on the negative, oh no, oh no, oh no. And now they're like, well, let's see, right? And I appreciate that. And exactly what you're saying, how and you guys are well ahead of the game, but you have a diversified workforce, and everyone. The key thing that at the end says everyone's happy, and that's what it's all about. So
Yeah.
everybody working together as one team.
Well,
That's
they're
work.
happy now because I'm not involved. When I was still involved in the day to day, oh man, I would stress everybody out. I would
Yeah.
always be poking around, wanting to change things, do this differently and do this and reviewing everything. And now they have the freedom to get their shit done, get their stuff done. And without me looking over their shoulder too. So my management team is much better at interfacing with the operations team, and everybody's happier because they have that space and that freedom. You know, they don't have an office that they have to go to, and they love that. I miss the office. I miss seeing people every day. That's why I have a show, and that's why I travel so much with
Yeah.
all this other stuff, because I need that. I need that for my, like, to fill me up. I get depressed when I'm working just at home every day.
Yep. No, I get it. Again, the mindset when I got into this role was pre-COVID as well. I've been doing it 6 years. I was like, I'm so tired of driving. I'm in New York City. I'm so tired of driving to Melville, Long Island from Brooklyn. I said 4 hours a day. I was like, life has to be better. So I was looking for remote work. And you find this role, and of course you got to learn, adapt, there's challenges, and find out what exactly do you like about doing this role. And it's this, talking. I get paid very well to talk, consult all day long, but deep down I love it. So it's not work to me, it's something that I enjoy. And no matter and so I say all this because you just have to be in the right frame of mindset. And I feel that the profession is just is so much more enlightening these days, and understanding that, because I'm the first year of what was it of millennial, right? 1982. First
Yeah.
millennial.
So you're a year before me. We're elder millennials.
We're elder, yeah, elder
I'm
millennials.
83. Yeah.
Gen Z, or we got X or something. The new generation is totally different. It's a new workforce. It's more about, what is your firm going to do for me? And you're already doing that. Well, this is a client. Here's what I expect from you. Here's what's going to be what you're going to receive from us, and here's the game plan. And firms need to do that, because it is a completely new workforce. And I feel that you're doing that already. And then this whole entertaining aspect, I enjoy. I go to conferences as well. We were about to go to Scaling New Heights, but they had no room for us. So I would have seen
Mm.
your performance. Next time I will.
Yeah.
But this has been, I could talk to you all afternoon, but we need to wrap up. So before we go though, share some insight or some final thoughts, or a tip if you'd like, on for today's accounting firm looking towards the future.
You got to find, I mean, we didn't talk about finding a niche or a vertical, but you got to find first something that you feel passionate about, that lights you up. Just like you said, Chris, like, you enjoy talking to people and meeting with people, and it doesn't feel like work. You got to find something that doesn't feel like work for you. For me, I found it outside of my firm. I could go back and say, I wish I had done that within the firm. So I was still doing that and trying to grow something there, because you can only grow one thing at a time. And if I was focused on growing the firm, we don't have a niche. We don't have a vertical. And I wish we did, because then we can go deeper with clients. And I think that's also the future of a firm, is you've got to be specialized. That's where you can provide the advice. So I think that's one of the real important things that I wish I had done before I exited out. I don't really exit out. I mean, I still have the firm, and we are still talking about finding a niche, but it's going to be up to them to do that and build that and grow that. Because I'm preoccupied growing something that I'm also passionate about. I mean, I love this entertainment stuff and this rap stuff. And, it sounds selfish, like, because I'm doing it for entertainment and for, people to have eyes on me. Like, that sounds selfish, but to me, I'm trying to see smiles on their face and make other people happy, make them laugh, or make them, give them that joy that you get from entertainment. Because without entertainment, we would all be bored. We would all look like accountants and just be, and I say that tongue in cheek, but
No,
it would be a real boring life. So I'm trying to
yeah,
bring fun into it.
I gotta completely get it. I mean, all day long, I sit here 8, 10 calls a day, very professional, got this amazing background. Guys made this for me. Um, and then at the end of the day, I just watch like Family Guy and South Park. And I just after being, and it helps me escape to just see stupid shows, talk about stupid things. And I say this because folks out there, I love the niche aspect of it, because that a lot of firms are not doing that. They're very generalized. But when you find your niche and you find your understanding, you find your happiness, and then you also have to kind of separate too, right? And make sure that you're enjoying life and enjoying this, so it doesn't seem like work. Um,
Yeah, it
but
all
yeah,
feels like just one thing to me now. Life and work is all the same, and I'm still trying to figure that out too. That's a whole nother ball game. I've been, trying to figure out what's the like what am I right now? Am I accountant? Am I rapper? Am I podcaster? Am I entertainer? I don't think you have to be one thing. That's what I'm
yeah,
learning.
yeah. And you have to enjoy what you do. You have to separate, and don't worry about what other people are thinking. Obviously, you get insight from your colleagues and pick their brain, but I feel that there needs to be some more uh, um, independent feeling amongst firms. We've always done it this way. We've always like think outside the box, and it's not the dreaded tax season. It's like, it doesn't have to be like that. Why is it coined like that? Many firms that we work with, it's no dreaded tax season. It's year-round work. Everybody does the same. Everybody has their role, has their fit within the firm, and so and it doesn't need to be like, oh no. And this all helps the profession get a whole new brand and image. It's client facing. It's not data entry. It's not tax season dreaded. The dreaded
But
tax
you got to
season.
create space to do that. If they are bogged down and tied down with low margin work and a lot
Yeah,
of, that's when you start have to prune your client base. And, otherwise it's like that tree behind you. If you don't prune the leaves and clear out all the dead weight, you're not going to be able to thrive and grow. So create the space so you don't dread tax season. And that's getting rid of your worst clients.
yeah, yeah, and that's a big change too. Years ago, firms would be, as I'm talking, they're like, well, we can't make this change because we have clients do this. Well, we can't do that aspect because our clients are doing this. Well, we can't do this because it's like, wait, who runs the firm? The
Yeah,
clients or you? Right? And
exactly.
that's not the case anymore. I've seen that change. It's like, this is the way to work with us. That is it. Hallelujah, right? You need to do that. And then, they're not going to fall that way. You don't need to waste anybody's time there. There's someone else could work with them. There's so much business. I mean, all the free money the government gave out, everyone has a business. So transaction happening, accounting is booming. Scott, thank you so much for taking time out to talk again. I could do this all afternoon. You've been a pleasure to speak with. So appreciate your time.
Oh, awesome. Appreciate it, homie.
All righty. Everyone else, we'll be back soon with an episode. For now, take care. Be good.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.